All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another round of Steel Connect webinar. So I'm Rocky, and your host today, where we talk about steel and building related topics. All right. So before we start today's session and discussion, as usual, if you have any questions, do feel free to post it in the Q&A box on the side. And yeah, of course, we show an example because we know that there are some participants who are joining us via mobile phone. So of course, for fellow architects or engineers, if you wish to claim your CBD or LAM, CBD or BM CBD hours, you have to stay through the entire webinar, and we'll share the QR code or even link in the chat box where you can submit the survey form together with your respective association's membership number. All right, so let's start today's topic. So today we have invited an interesting guest who will be delivering this topic, reimagining spatial possibilities of industrial buildings. Right, just a brief background about this topic. Of course, you can see an example of the building at the background. So it is the Penang Island Waste Transfer Station. So it is, a beautiful realization of what do you call it? A design that celebrates a dynamic and transformative approach to its build form. So as you can see from the design, it actually breaks away from typical orthogonal shape of an industrial buildings, and is actually situated at the gateway of Penang Island. So the project actually does not strive to be a monument, and it speaks of its context of with aspects of sustainability, materiality, and form making. So going past the pure function into form, so this award-winning project was featured in multiple publications. So of course, joining me and the presenter today is Lee Min Zhao. So she's a graduate architect in KH Architect. And of course, a brief introduction of Min Zhao is that she was born in Penang. And of course, Min Zhao actually went abroad to study and graduated from RMIT University in Melbourne with Masters of Architecture in 2011. So she began her career with Jackson Architecture, so working on this project called Living Carlton, right, in Melbourne. So it's an environmentally sustainable redevelopment that integrates social and private housing. So in 2014, she came back to her hometown in Penang, and she is currently working with KH Architect, getting involved in various types of projects such as residential, industrial, educational, and commercial. So being a huge believer of effective learning through effective practice, reflective practice, sorry. Min Zhao is passionate about the built environment and loves to explore around the places. So such appreciation has geared her design direction towards creating innovative spaces that enhance spatial experience. She's currently a member of the editorial team of PAM Northern Chapter's digital publication. So welcome, Min Zhao, and you may take over the stage.
Thanks, Rocky, for such a great introduction of mine. Good morning, everyone on the line. My name is Min Zhao. I'm from KH Architect. So let me just share my screen before I start. I think everyone can see my screen, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, thanks to BlueScope for inviting me to speak on this webinar. So today I'll be speaking on behalf of my good office. The topic of the day would be reimagining spatial possibilities of industrial building. So it's basically an exploration into the Penang Island Waste Transfer Station. Let's have a look at the overview of the presentation today. So I'll briefly talk about us, and then I would tell some stories on how we actually started to do waste transfer station. So we would look at the site from a bigger perspective, the urban propositions, Then we will look at sustainability, construction and materiality, form making, and lastly, an epilogue. We are KH Architect, and as a practice established for 30 years by architect Lee Hua. Currently, we have 4 staffs, consist of graduate architects and draft person. Though we are a small practice, yet we are bold and ambitious. Just like many other smaller scale practice, we are mostly doing commercial and residential projects. And we are fortunate that about 10 years ago, we were approached by clients to design an extension for a waste transfer station on the mainland, the Ampang Jaja Waste Transfer Station. So this project was completed in 2012. It was an extension for the waste transfer station. So just allow me to explain a little bit of the operation of the waste transfer station. So basically, it served as a transit point for the waste to be disposed here. And then the orange hammer you see on the right on the photo is a compactor. So it will compact all the waste into the silo. And then the compacted silo will be sent off to landfill. So that's the operation of the waste transfer station. So back in 2016, the MBBP, Majlis Bandaraya Pulau Pinang, they had to cope for a higher demand of handling the waste on Penang Island. So they can't just like go through the Ampang Jaja Waste Transfer Station. They will need a bigger site on the island to cope with this demand. So we were approached by the same client again to have a whole new brief and approach to build from scratch on this waste transfer station in Batu Mau. So we spent the year 2016 to do the design, and the construction takes 2 years to complete. It was completed in 2018. So as we attempt to look at the site at Batu Mau, we want to look at it from a bigger perspective. We look at how we want to do with urban propositions. The site and its context. So the site is just located next to the Penang Second Bridge. It's at an important gateway to the Bayan Lepas Free Industrial Zone. And the blue dotted lines show the main access way around the site. So it's located at the shorefront. This is a photo of the site in the early days. So the boat that you see is actually a barge. So during the early days, the waste on the Penang Island was sent via barge transfer to the mainland. In the background, you see the site that was covered with trees and shrubs. The site was cleared during the groundbreaking ceremony. And in the background, you can see the important major accessway, the Penang Second Bridge. So it's at the perimeter of the site. This is what we want to do for our urban propositions. We want the site to establish itself amidst the industrial zone since it's located at the important gateway, but we don't want it to isolate itself. So we had the site connected to the major accessway, and we also provided bicycle lane, which is an extension to the green connector on Penang Island. And we want to provide more green and open spaces, forming a green link with the site context. What we don't want to do is to have a monstrous monument on site. So this is a view of the site and its context. In the foreground, you see the industrial zone, and underneath the yellow arrow, you will see our site. So imagine if we were to have a huge, iconic, monstrous monument, it would overpower the context. This is what we would like to have. So the outcome is a maximum of 2-story buildings that actually harmonizes with the site context, that actually speaks of its own identity through its form making. We think the Penang newsletter bulletin Mutiara agrees with us. So this is a shot taken during dawn or dusk. So you can see that the scheme actually blends in to the industrial context. Sustainability is an important aspect of our project. Let me explain a bit of the planning of spaces. So as you can see on the site plan, a majority of spaces are dedicated to trucks, driveway, so as to optimize the operation of waste transfer station. So the rest of the area, we would want it to be dedicated to landscape and open spaces. And the landscape spaces is actually about 35% of the total land area. Water is essential for the operation of waste transfer station. Every day, a huge amount of water is needed for washing the silo, washing the trucks, and washing the terminal. So it is necessary to actually use recycled water for washing. So how do we get all this recycled water from? On site, there is a leachate treatment plant that is designed by our environmental specialists. So under this treatment plant, you can see that there are tanks. So the tanks actually process leachate. Leachate is actually the wastewater that comes from the waste trucks. So the waste trucks, when they collect the garbage, they also dispose wastewater, which is leachate. So the leachate gets treated under this treatment plant and it's stored in this 3-meter high tank that you see on the left. So after it gets treated, it will be stored into a grey water pond next to the leachate treatment plant. Now, this pond also collects rainwater and storm water. So the rainwater that comes off from the building roofs are all channeled into this pond. So other than fulfilling this function, the pond also serves as a sanctuary for the operational staff and a visual spectacle for the public. We even have a small rainwater harvesting tank at the recycle center, which I will explain a bit later. Our site is surrounded by nature, the sea, the public promenade. So when we are designing the buildings, we have to ensure that the building occupants also get to enjoy the nature around. This is one of the largest tree that we had to remain on site. So we have designed trucks driveway around the tree. And as a result, you can see that the built form and nature lives together in harmony. The silhouette is showing the docking platform with the tree beside, and this shot is very poetic. Just like other shopping malls and public spaces, they often provide recycle bins, but on site, our clients would like to have a proper recycle center so as to promote recycling around the neighborhood. This diagram shows the summary of our sustainability aspects. So you can see that in the middle, there's the pond. On the left, there's the waste transfer station that the collected wastewater will be channeled towards the leachate treatment plant underneath the wavy roof, gets treated there, and then gets stored in a pond. And after that, it will be sent off everywhere on site for washing purposes and irrigation purposes. So on this diagram, you can see how the building form is. We use efficient building envelopes, and we had quite a number of skylights used. With this, it maximized sunlight and daylight penetration. Next, construction and materiality. At the waste transfer station, it's a 2-story building. So we were using prefab hollow core slab. It quickens the construction. Most of the building we are using steel construction. So we had to take note that with every steel construction, we need to deal with the issues of thermal and noise insulation. Other than the standard rock wool and aluminum foil that we're using, on this office building, we had to install fiber cement planks. We had this worked out with the supplier that we need to achieve certain STC rating. That's the sound transmission class. So because this office building is housing an auditorium, meeting rooms, we need to achieve a good rating of that. So hence the fiber cement planks is being installed. Some photos on site showing the steel construction. That's the green waste building. All the steel trusses, the members are being prefabricated off-site and gets assembled on-site. That's the leachate treatment plant. And you can see that we had to bring in the mechanism, the tall tanks, aeration anaerobic tanks before the steel is being erected. When it comes to building envelope, we are using corrugated metal cladding. We like this material because this material is it is strong on one axis, yet it's flexible on another. So on the photo on the right, you can see that for the yellow cylinder, we simply bend the metal cladding to get the shape. But on the left, when it comes to the green waste building, we had to do cream curve. And I will explain about that later. More photos showing the materiality on site. We like using corrugated metal cladding because it creates mood. As you can see from the diffuse light, it actually creates very subtle tones and shades. And this is the mood that we want to achieve from using corrugated metal cladding. At night, when the lights are on, it creates a different kind of mood. So on the left, that's the entrance pavilion. On the right, that's the link bridge. These are the facade lighting that we were working with the electrical engineer and subcon to achieve that. So this is a shot inside the link bridge. You can see the nice subtle tones and shades. Form making. Now with form making, we are trying to achieve a balance between form and function. So with function being that the waste is being transferred, we want to achieve the articulation of transformative tubes on site. And all these are done via a series of geometric expression that is derived from silo. Silo is an object that you always see in the waste transfer station. But for this project, we want to imagine that we are able to inhabit the silo. At the entrance pavilion, we can see that there are two cylinders that stand tall and proud. So that's a literal portrayal of the silo concept. Now, when it comes to waste transfer station building, we would like to have the yellow cylinder carved into the building. And with that, you will see different articulations of the silo concept. We imagine that we can inhabit the tube. So in order to have a habitable tube, we need to compartmentalize it, and we add windows for daylight and ventilation. In short, we get to achieve different spatial experience during the day and at night. So during the day, when the sun shines in, you get daylight and ventilation through the windows. And at night, when the lights are on, you get to see how the lighting accentuate the curve. So that gives different kind of spatial experience. The brief also calls for a visitor's corridor because the client regularly conduct tour groups for school kids. So this is the plan of the waste transfer station. The gray shows the area where the trucks drives in and drives out. And the yellow one shows the visitor's corridor. And you can see how these two spaces interlock against each other so as to enable views across. So the design iteration starts when you embark on the link bridge. You can see how the curve and the straight lines juxtapose against each other. Looking out from the diagonal window, you can see the views around the site. That's the sea, that's the promenade. Now, as you progress along the corridor, you come to a place where the corridor is widened, and you can see that the tube, the circular tube, is now being reduced to a semicircular tube. And on the right, the views are geared towards the top terminal of the waste transfer station. And there you can see how the trucks, the waste truck, dispose the waste and the compactor in action. As you can see on the wall, there is a mechanism. That's the mechanical ventilation designed by our M&E engineer. So it has negative pressure to ensure that this corridor that you are standing is free from foul smell. This is an early sketch of the waste transfer station showing the top and the bottom terminal. And you can see that we want to have skylight in and some ventilation. And this is being realized. That's the shot inside the operational area. Other views of the waste transfer station. And on the right, you can see the Penang second bridge in the background, looking out from the windows. So you don't feel confined when you are inside the tube. Now, as you turn around the corner, we come to a space where the tube is now transformed into an open balcony-like tube. And with that, the views are geared towards the docking platform. So the docking platform is the place where the silo, the filled silo are being transferred onto a bigger truck and then sent off to landfill. So as you progress, you come to another space with elongated tube and array of diagonal windows. So the spatial experience here is being multiplied. A cross-section of the visitor's corridor shows the various spatial experience. So as you are on this visitor's corridor, you get all sorts of spatial experience while you are looking at the operation, whether inside or outside of the building. So the visitor corridor concluded at the place where the trucks enter and exit the building. It's a complete tube as a reinstatement of the concept. Now let's come to the green waste building and leachate treatment plant. The design concept is based on the same silo concept. It's just that this green waste building actually does process and manage bulk waste. Bulk waste are things like used furniture, tree logs, and branches. So we need, the client actually need a huge space for this. So with the concept, we use the silo again, we deformed it and slice it into base. So we can compress the base to form protrusion and recession for the interplay of solid and void. That's the plan of the green waste building. And you can see that it's a columnless space, a huge space for the trucks to come in and maneuver around. And on the roof plan on the right, you can see how we alternate the base with solid and translucent roofing. So this is a shot of the street fronting facade. With all the protrusion and recession, we get to achieve dynamic and a progressive facade. And the recessed part is actually the place where we have the acrylic roof, so daylight can get into it. More views of the Greenways building. And this interior shot, you can see how the protrusion and recession works. So as to juxtapose with the dynamic facade of the Greenways, we added another character to it. This is the tensile force that we actually got inspired from the Penang second bridge, the cable stay. So we literally apply the cable stay onto the docking platform. It's not just for decorative purposes, because the docking platform has a huge cantilever building. So the cable stay actually held up the roof. And this is another facade of the Greenways building. So you can see that we have added cross-bracing elements to it. With this, the thing, it feels static, and that's the character of tensile force. So the exploded axonal is showing the facade system, which our engineer has designed beautiful bowstring truss. And then we had purlins that enables us to fix the acrylic sheet onto it. And lastly, we had the cross-bracing elements that is directly bolted to the structural steel members. It's the juxtaposition to the dynamic facade of Greenways. Now, when it comes to leachate treatment plant, we are using a similar concept again. For now, we will just simply bend the roof and give it some height variation. So as a result, we get to form a wavy roofscape that is sort of like a continuation of the dynamic facade of the Greenways. So that's where it houses the leachate treatment plant and the washing bay. We like having juxtaposition. So the columns, in the V-shaped columns, they are actually portrays the tensile force holding the wavy roof. The office building houses some administrative offices, educational gallery, and an auditorium. So this is mostly RC structure, but we are having some metal cladding feature at the lobby and drop-off area. This is the educational gallery. It shows that there are some skylight incorporated. Concept versus realization. So these photos are showing the waste transfer station and the link bridge. And we think that the concept is being realized. That's the interior shot of the Greenways, the early sketch, and the photo under construction. Waste transfer station. Now, it's important to document how the building is in use. So as the tour groups are being conducted for school kids, that's a shot of them standing at the landscape area, the greywater pond. So they are enjoying the building. This is a shot. On the left, it's the educational gallery where they get briefing on the operation of the waste transfer station. And on the right, that's the start of the link bridge. So it's a favorite spot for photos. Now, when it comes to the last section of my presentation, we have put together some photos of the completed project and a poem. And all these actually showcase a successful collaboration between all parties, the clients, consultants, suppliers, and contractors. So please enjoy the video. We find resonance in this quote from Jorge Luis Borges. The taste of the apple lies not in the fruit itself, but rather in the contact of the fruit with the palate. In a similar way, the meaning of poetry lies in the meeting of the poem and the reader. So we make architecture for the perception of the people and the public. It's thought-provoking, it celebrates diversity, and it's generous. So with this, I thank you for staying with me for this presentation. We are KH Architect. Reach out to us to follow us. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Min Zhao, for such a wonderful presentation. Well, of course, I believe our audience will have your questions ready, and of course, after you have listened to what Min Zhao shared, you can actually you can actually post your questions there. Get ready with your questions, and we'll go to the Q&A section later. So before that, of course, I myself have some questions that is of interest. And this is where we'll have this dialogue session, right? So Min Zhao, so just after your presentation, right? I think one thing that is most often overlooked is all these industrial, especially this kind of waste management buildings. So and for me, initially, the waste management building was always perceived, or stigmatized as, somewhat dilapidated, dirty warehouse. And I often had that perception for any kind of industrial buildings that deal with waste, right?
Mhm.
But your design actually, sort of gave me, different perception towards it. So want to know from your perspective, has the design itself achieved so-called positive environmental or social impact around it? And also, do you think the typography of such industrial buildings need to be explored further to break away from such negative stigmas?
Thank you for the question. So I think that with the waste transfer station, other than just fulfilling its function, its operation as a waste transfer place, we need to see what it actually gives back to the community. So just take our project as an example. We have addressed issues such as the sustainability, provision of public space in order to raise awareness in the public. So sustainability in the form that we're talking about water recycling, all the ventilation, natural daylight, things like that. So all these address the issues, and with the visitors corridor that is incorporated into the brief of the design, it actually gives back to the community. It forms as a social and environmental outreach for that. Yeah. So, and if you talk about how we actually do with the typology of the waste transfer station, we think there is no fixed typology for this. As long as you fulfill the brief and requirements of the client, you give them the space for the top and bottom terminal, things like that. And the rest, you can just be creative and be generous so as to give more. So it shouldn't just be orthogonal or boxy. In our project, we take the idea of the silo and we articulate it throughout the site.
As I saw from the design, I think the most prominent one would be that they broke away from the orthogonal shape. Would be the corridors, right? That is highlighted very prominently, and as shown in this picture. Of course, personally, I do think that makes a bit of positive impact socially, because I actually have passed through this walking path before, and it basically does not perceive to be a waste transfer station, and I do gravitate towards the notion that it does not need to be, orthogonal shape, and that itself, especially the walking corridor, that give that a new, you know, perspective, because people walk on top of it. People walk in the tube, and yeah, that gives
Yes,
people the perspective that it is not just dirty. It can
yes,
be
yes,
some place where people can explore
yes,
and understand what is the process. So yeah.
yeah.
Well, and just now you highlighted that the whole construction, of course, there are components that are using some prefabs, cement, using
Mm-hmm.
concrete. Sorry. Of course, majority of it are actually using steel, right?
Yeah.
Within that few buildings and designs. So, are there any advantages of using steel over other building materials when you were considering the design?
Yeah, we are using a majority of steel. That's
Mm-hmm.
because steel construction promotes fast-paced construction. Um, it is a fast-track project, and we need the project to be completed in less than 2 years. So steel is fast-paced and it's high-strength material. And also with the brief of the client, they actually required a huge space for the trucks to come in and maneuver around. So
Mm-hmm.
with steel, we can achieve a longer roof span comparing to other building materials.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when it comes to the building envelope, we are using a majority of corrugated metal cladding.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's actually the color bond that we are using because
Mm-hmm.
of the environment of the site. It's just beside the sea, located at the shorefront. So the salty and the wet environment and makes the selection of materials very challenging. So
Mm-hmm.
the color bond is actually the aluminum zinc alloy steel with it's a pre-painted alloy that is very durable. So we chose this product as our main building envelope. We want the project to actually last for a very long time, yet still looking vibrant in colors.
Yeah, I do agree. Most often, because sometimes we do provide consultation in terms of material selection for building
Yeah.
owners or even investors. Yeah, the balance between, of course, cost and also the environment sometimes is a bit challenge to convince a client sometimes that in that kind of environment it is corrosive, because
Yes.
sometimes the clients don't feel it because they might not be aware of
Yes.
proximity to the coastal actually means it
Yeah.
being more corrosive as well. So
Corrosive.
yeah.
Even with the fasteners, we had to use class 3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I think
it's a very
those
big
are
thing.
the minor details that I think you
Mm.
guys have
Yeah.
nailed down. Yeah. So okay. So in terms of the profile selection, I noticed that there are various types of form making, as just now you have demonstrated that there's the silo, and
Mm.
after that you make some negative space with the bulk so-called waste transfer area, and
Mm-hmm.
also some sort of a wave form in the middle, right?
Yeah.
I think
Yep.
that is a leachate
Treatment
trans
plant.
treatment plant. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those elements of different curves and straight lines within your design, how was the product selection in terms of profile done to use the right or so-called a more suitable type of profile for different geometry? And was the
Mm-hmm.
input of those suppliers very helpful to the determination of those shapes?
Mm. Okay. So when it comes to visual perception point, when you
Mm-hmm.
have straight line and curved lines,
Mm-hmm.
the straight line would actually make the curved line even more rounded. So that's the juxtaposition of elements that is recurring throughout the scheme. This is the thing that we want to explore. So with the help from the supplier, um, other than just getting things fixed and installed in shape, the
Mm-hmm.
supplier helped us to select the different types of corrugation. I'm talking about the direction of the corrugation, so
Mm-hmm.
as to achieve our design intention. So as you look at this photo, the link bridge, we want it to propel the visitors to move forward. So it's just simply the metal cladding is simply banded and it's in horizontal corrugation. But when it goes to the green waste building, we actually using cream curve with multiple radius. So with that, the green waste building hasn't got any gutter. So the rainwater just free flow off the roof. With that, we want it to be in vertical corrugation for the metal cladding because we want the water to just flow naturally off. So that's why cream curve is being selected. Yeah.
So as I noticed it, so what you're saying is that the building, especially the bulk waste transfer area, water will flow down not through a gutter but through the landscape itself, and then the landscape itself will absorb the water and transfer it to the lake, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Into the drain and then to the pond.
Oh, so that water will be used to as operational,
It's
usage
for non-potable use mostly.
Yeah.
So it's for washing and irrigation purpose.
So I believe this is where you mentioned is the sustainability part of it, right? Where they use less water compared to a traditional waste transfer.
Don't use so much of fresh water, just recycle the water.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Anyway, so on to my last questions. There are actually from the photos, right? There are actually multiple colors used for this project. With one striking color, as well you can see from the photo, yellow color. So how was the color selection done during this design stage? And was there any reason behind each of these colors used?
So we try to be simple in selecting the colors because we think the building form can speak itself. We don't need the colors to overwhelm. So basically, we just have a very neutral color in the background. So in this photo, you can see the neutral color. The primary color is the dark gray, the gunmetal gray. And then as we want to accentuate the yellow cylinder, I mean the cylinder, the tube that's carved into the facade, we had it in yellow. It's the sunflower gold color. Yes. So that's the waste transfer station. And the other building, the green waste building, we are using Taurus blue as the primary color. And we just use the off-white color to accentuate the curve and the gable end. This is to highlight the building form. Yes, so quite simple with our approach to selecting the colors.
So meaning to say, that there is some basic, more darker tone color to act as a base, and then there are some brighter or lighter colors to act as a color to accentuate the shape of the building.
That's right.
Or the geometry.
That's right.
Yeah, I do agree. Over here I never noticed, how the curvature was formed. And I remember when we were preparing for this topic, you mentioned that the curves are actually in multi-radius, right? Over here.
Yes.
So meaning to say the crimping of the profile is done in a much more different radii format.
Yes, it's a tedious effort. The
Yeah.
supplier even had it, tested on site, like on one day before it's being replicated and repeated throughout. Yeah.
So meaning to say this is in one piece all the way down here.
The blue one is blue one is one piece. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, yeah, huge effort, I believe. Well, yeah, I do agree. I mean, as you can see from here, right? It actually the yellow color also does stand out from the the walkway, and compared to the more grayish tone of the building, which are more orthogonal than curvy, right? So yeah, this accentuate and leads the eyeball to the corridor, right? So yeah, I would say, coming back to full circle, I believe the geometry of the building actually makes some difference in terms of social perception of the building, right?
Mhm.
And I think some of the tricks that you have or you know your team and designers have done is actually to I believe just now you mentioned is the negative pressure, right? To actually prevent the foul smell from going
Yes.
out or going into the
Yes.
corridor to
Yeah.
make a better experience for the people walking on top.
Yeah, for the visitors.
Well, yeah, so I believe, you know, those questions might be helpful for me personally, you know, in my future when I look at different types of building.
Yeah.
So of course, today is not just about me trying to understand your design. It's also about our participants, you know, asking their questions to you and possibly, you know, hopefully answers. You have those answers ready. Otherwise, of course, we can of course take this offline and see how we can help each of these participants. But
Sure.
yeah, let me look at the time first. Okay, so we do have 12 minutes before 11. So let me just ask the questions that are posted in the Q&A box. So as a, you know, for participants, as a reminder, if you have not posted your question, you can post it in the Q&A box, not the chat box, yeah. So in the Q&A box, and we'll get to each of the questions if possible. All right, so the first question is from Han. So his question, I believe his question is that no watertight intertwine between the tube and the angular window along visitor corridor. So I believe he's referring to the juxtapose of your so-called the rectangular
Mhm.
you know glass window versus the circular cylinder corridor. So was there any water tightness over here?
Okay, let me just explain. That is the link bridge.
Mhm.
So at the link bridge, it's like it's as a it's actually a semi outdoor space, but
Mhm.
we actually had some challenges in doing the waterproofing because the geometry is contrasting.
Mhm.
So at the cylinder, we actually try to protrude as much as we can so it cantilevers over the diagonal. Um, some of them we had fixed glass fixed in between the gap between the diagonal window and the curvature. So some of them it's just projection of the metal cladding. And some of them we just leave it because it's semi-outdoor space. Yeah, as you can see that one of the spaces we had widened corridor. So actually it's okay to, you know, leave the perimeter of the building as semi-outdoor, but inside it's set back and recessed in. So it's not, it's actually rainproof inside.
Yeah, I can see from here. And when you say semi-outdoor, after they walk through here, and then they have to go through without a shelter over here, right? So this is where
This
they are
is,
exposed to.
yeah, the bridge one is definitely without shelter. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is where they are exposed to the
Mm.
outside, you know, the walking path or the cycling pathway, right? So
Yes,
so
yes,
so
that's
to
right.
to have an interlinkage between the inside and the outside.
Yeah, so you
So
feel very
yeah,
connected to the surrounding.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope I can visit the building one day
I
too.
answer your question. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope that answer your question, Han. Yeah. Anyway, to the next question from Surveyor Ng.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about cost, right? So what's the extra cost what what is the extra cost had been spent to build this entire metal curve walling, roofing, and railing a corridor compared to a conventional simple brick railing or mild steel railing corridor? So I'm not sure whether Min Zhao, you have the figure in your head, or you know, perhaps you can try to
The actual
say
cost.
in a ballpark. Yeah.
Maybe I couldn't advise what's the the actual cost of it. I mean the exact one. Uh, but we have to foresee. We had to foresee what's the, you know, the labor cost that we need to bend. We need to bend the curve maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
So
So-
in the early stage, we had to make sure that we have this extra cost in bending the flashing, so as to be fixed onto the metal cladding. So I think it's the extra cost that's being factored. In exact, I couldn't advise like how much in exact. So, yeah, sorry for that.
Yeah,
That's just my point of view in general.
I think Surveyor Ng's question also brief around what if the building was made with the conventional brick wall and all that. Would there be any extra cost incur or cost saving in this sense? And what would be the sacrifice to perhaps from architect point of view, perhaps?
Maybe currently because the steel prices fluctuate, maybe it's okay to use. It's better to use the normal conventional one, but the construction is lower, I would say. So it comes down to how you see the situation and how it actually best fits your project. Yeah.
I think this was completed in 2019.
18.
18, yeah. So so perhaps the at that time, consideration is more in favor of steel.
Steel, yes, and we want to have the long span for columnar space, so that's why steel construction is preferred.
Oh, yeah, makes sense. Yeah, you are referring to especially the bulk waste transfer, right?
Yeah.
Because there are Anyway, so Surveyor, I hope you get a sense of how this project was carried out. So and what was the consideration at the time. So the next question is from architect Ui. Okay. So how did you convince your client to spend money on this beautiful building? So I assume
The client is
what it meant is that there will be some costs incurred to beautify or achieve such beautiful design. So yeah.
Our client is the council MBPP. So it's they said that they want iconic building. That's what I remember from the very early meetings. They said, okay, we want to have iconic building because it's just beside the Penang Second Bridge. It's an important landmark, important gateway. In terms of the cost, actually, when we're talking about the entire contract sum, half of it is for the mechanism, another half is for the main construction works. So yeah, so I think that the cost is okay. I mean, the
You
form
managed
we are
to
making
keep
is
within
within the
budget.
Yeah.
So I guess another thing that based on what architect Ui mentioned is that so given the same cost, what you are giving is not just the functional part of the design of architectural design, but also adding value in terms of just now you mentioned the environmental and also the social part, where
Yes.
I believe also gives a value that is very hard to judge because it is always depending on how people interact with it and how the building is maintained. So yeah, I do believe there is a value that cannot have a money to put on top, especially design like this,
Yes.
So yeah. So
this is more than just giving the function, and it promotes environmental and social outreach awareness. Yeah.
So I hope architect you can I guess try to convince using some good design perhaps
Using these
perhaps,
plus points that you can reach out.
Yeah, perhaps like social points and environmental points as well, not just the functional part of it.
Yes, that's a great one.
Yeah. So another question from Yu. So the question is for the roof corrugated roof of tube walkway, meaning the corridor. How is the rainwater drainage resolved at top section of the roof? So yeah, if I may interpret this correctly, it means that because the tubes corridor is the profile are running horizontally. So
Oh, okay.
is there any or so-called drainage discussion when that top
That
section,
part.
that part.
Is
I
that the
believe,
part where
yeah.
it is joined with the wall, the straight wall? So something like that.
I believe Yu is actually referring to this.
Hmm.
You see on the screen, right?
Oh, this one, just on,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So because rain falls on top and then it will just
Yes,
flow. Yeah,
just flow.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
it just
basically we
flow
have to
yeah.
make sure that the rain can just flow as long as we make sure that the jointing part with the diagonal windows is sort of addressed that we have some either fixed glazing or we just cantilever the metal cladding over. But the rain will just fall just flow even though it's in horizontal corrugation. And because the this material that we're using is ColourBond, it's actually self-cleansing. So it's suitable for the weather condition.
I do believe studying the geometry, right? I think what you're saying is that because the apex of here, the cylinder is such a small area, it will just flow over to the so-called the window, and then it will just flow to the window and then just let the water fall naturally, right? Yeah. So the consideration is that the cylinder and the apex of the glass is actually cantilevered and flush to each other. That's why the water will just flow to the glass. Yeah. All right. So I hope that answer your question, Miss or Mr. Ng. Okay. So the next question from Surveyor Ng from NGBC is what is your opinion on using acrylic skylight compared with polycarbonate skylight in terms of life cycle and decoloration? What was part of your discussion?
I think in the green waste building, we were actually using, sorry, not the acrylic. If you just remember the green waste building in the interior shot of it, we were using, you can see that's the light blue, where the light blue is in the middle, that's the FRP panel. So I think there's a scale. So FRP is the most preferred material. As a secondary, we come to acrylic. The last one we will use polycarbonate. So the durability also decrease with that rating. FRP first and then acrylic, then polycarbonate. In our project, we haven't used any polycarbonate. It's all from acrylic to FRP. Yeah.
Okay.
Because polycarbonate, it would get yellowish like after some years.
Okay. So yeah, Surveyor Ng, I hope that is answering your question. Yeah. So you what I'm getting from Min Zhao, you're saying is that there are different priorities in terms of which material to choose for these translucent sheets. So you are choosing FRP over, say, acrylic over polycarbonate.
Yes.
Okay. So with the consideration of their technical limitations.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So the next question is from Ng Ayu again. So is a GBI certification a primary requirement of this project from the client?
Yes, it is, because it's a council project.
Okay, cool.
So our GBI consultant is working on this at the moment, because we had this grey water pond that recycle leachate, recycle water, but it also gathers rainwater as well. So with this, we need to make sure that the building is running its operation, and then after some time, only the GBI consultant can gather this data and submit. So it's in process now.
Okay. So the operational part is also part of the consideration for how green the building is and whether it can be considered as a GPI rated building.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll see in time from the GPI website. I believe they do post it up once they have certified the building. So yeah, let's see how it goes. Yeah.
Yes.
So hopefully it is a GPI
Yeah, hopefully
rated.
we'll get it.
Yeah. Based on all the designs and consideration. So okay, so another question from Jack. So are there few variants there are few variants of colors being selected. Could you share what are the challenges you're facing when it comes to various types of color choice and all that?
Oh,
Single
okay.
project, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, as mentioned just now, we want to just have a simple color scheme. So we are looking at because we want the color to be durable and easy maintain as well. So we don't use too much of bright colors. This sunflower gold, the yellow color that you just see, is only applied to the tube. So it's just to highlight the design feature of the building. So the rest of the building, we can just stick to the normal gray color, the usual dark gray color. And this one, we selected gunmetal gray. That's a dark gray that actually contrasts with the yellow color. But when it comes to roof, we had to use majority off-white color and a small portion of yellow color, because for the roof, you need to achieve the solar reflectance index. So hence you have to use
for GPI also.
for GPI. So that's why you need to use a lighter color for the roof. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I believe I think in terms of convincing the client, having a different color variation also makes sense to highlight certain components of the building.
Yes. Yeah.
So I hope it wasn't a hard task to convince them using this design.
It was okay.
All right. So okay, another question from Lim Wah Keng is that at the tube corridor, is there any insulation in between the corrugated roofing sheets? Meaning, I believe you are referring to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So was there any insulation used within the inner and also outer skin?
No, there wasn't for this one, because this was located sort of like semi-outdoor space. So it's just simply a 2-layer metal cladding.
Yeah, so I do believe yeah, if let's say it's outdoor space and then the area is not huge, then I think insulation,
We can save on that lah.
yeah, it can save on that because the
Still keep
natural,
on the yeah through
and
natural ventilation.
and to speak from a first person view, when I went there recently, it was sunny, but it wasn't hot. It was sunny, but it wasn't hot. So I believe it has also to do with the coast,
The green.
The green and also the coastline, because the coastal wind sort of takes have certain cool breeze to it. So yeah.
Yes, that's nice.
Yeah. Okay. So the next question, I believe this is same questions to earlier posted one. So how did you convince the client to spend money on this beautiful and well-designed building? So I believe you have given an answer earlier. It's more towards the not just the functional value. I believe that's what you answered, and also it's also had to do with the environmental and also the social
value.
elements of it. Yeah. So those are the part of the consideration, right? So okay, so the next question is from Maneha Ramanath. Okay, so the buildings have a lot of dynamic forces. May I know what's the foundation below ground for the building?
Sorry, come again. The foundation.
Okay, yeah. The what because of all these dynamic forces, right? I do not know what kind of dynamic forces. It could be, like the compressor and all that.
Oh,
So may I know, so the question is that, what is the foundation below ground for the building? So I believe, how deep a foundation perhaps?
I think in terms of the technical thing, maybe we have to I need to like check this out again with the engineer. The engineer knows better on this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Sorry,
believe
we'll
so.
take this
Yeah.
offline.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so Ramana, this one I believe has to go to the engineers instead
Yeah.
of the architect.
Yes.
So, yeah. So anyway, the next question is from Saleha Yusuf. The question is, has the building achieved any green building rating? So yeah, I believe this also we have answered. We have given, Meja has given some update earlier that it is still under evaluation due to the consultant had not only to look at the existing, say, material or the system used, but also I believe the major part is also the water, right?
The real data needs to be gathered and submitted first. Yeah.
Yeah.
When the
So
building is under operation.
yeah. So that is taken into consideration of the water usage and all that. Okay, so the next question I think from Surveyor Ng is that will the client claim for green investment tax incentives? The I think the tax allowance or tax incentive. Yeah.
To be honest, I'm not informed of this.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Perhaps go to the green consultant.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. Sorry, we don't have the answer for you. For that. So of course, once the building has been certified green, so I'm sure the client will take advantage of
Yes.
some of the incentives.
Yeah.
Okay, so another questions. So this would be our last question before we end today's session. Of course, I believe for those who are leaving, you may look at the link that is shared by Cindy in the chat group, so you can submit the form there. So I will try to answer the last question before we end today's session. Okay. So the last question from Hadi asked me is during the designing stage, do you consider expanding the site in the future? Was it part of your
Expanding the
consideration?
site.
Yeah.
Okay. As you see that the site is quite huge. The client actually has plans to occupy within the site. So there is a space now beside the green waste. They actually had done a pilot project on converting the food waste to biogas. So that was a pilot project, but they do have some plans that they can utilize the same site. We're talking about the current open space. So they are having plans for that, but the plans are not concrete yet. Yeah.
So
but they won't, I don't think they will expand to the surrounding because the land is not owned by them. Maybe they have to look for other location. So either occupy the open space on site or other location.
So can I say that meaning during the design stage, it has already been considered for expansions and also future improvements of the operation?
More on the operation side, like how they want to improvise and have more new technology of converting the waste to energy.
Minimizing the waste that is going out.
Yes, that's right.
All right. So I hope that answered your questions, Hadi Asmi. And all right, with that, I would like to conclude today's topic. So of course, thank you again, Min Zhao, for such great presentation and such good insight. So of course, there's no doubt that of course, Min Zhao and also KH Architect had achieved a functional and unique design. So based on my learning of KH Architect's approach here, it reinforces my belief that only by daring to explore and rethink, shall we achieve buildings that will in time redefine the architecture in Malaysia. So to be more specific, of course, there are no set rules of how a waste transfer stations should look like, right? Based on KH Architects' approach, the design was started from blank canvas, right, and taken the opportunity to be reinterpreted, so hence the results of these waste transfer station that is presented in their own way. So the building itself portrays its industrial nature, yet it also appears to be welcoming to facilitate the so-called outreach program, like the school kids outing programs and all that, so that to I would say to destigmatize, people's perception towards waste management, right? Because everyone generates waste over here, right? Of course, KH Architect had also balanced the functionality of the building with forms by taking full advantage of the flexibility and rigidity of the corrugated steels, as well as major steel components, right? Balancing between different materials. So arriving to this free-form light building that works, I would say, harmoniously with the landscape to act as the functional part, which is to harvest the rains and also create an interesting visitor corridor. All right, so with that, of course, before we end, also I would like to encourage its architects who have existing projects or interesting design projects that you would like to share with us on our platform. Please share it with us, right? And then how you share is actually by emailing to our email address, events@bluescope.com, to get more to get your project submission being featured. Of course, we will have more discussion on the background. So of course, last but not least, for architects and engineers who wish to submit your CPD points or hours, please fill up the survey form with your LAM and BEM membership number. So if you enjoyed these sessions, of course, you can give us more inputs on what we did best, or if you like us to improve more on certain things, then also feel free to do so. All right. So with that, I would like to leave the QR code here for a few minutes. And thank you again for joining today's Steel Connect webinar. Cheers, guys. Bye. Bye, Min Zhao.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.